Hey y'all, Big Tim here. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Old School and Bass with Big Tim. We're going to talk about the Bassmaster Classic. It's only a couple weeks away, so we need to start thinking about it. It's going to be an exciting tournament, I think, on Lake Guntersville. The Expo's going to be in Birmingham. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Guntersville, I mean, the land of giants for the most part, or the water of giants, we should say. But I remember hearing about Guntersville years and years ago when I was a kid working in a hardware store. One of the guys that I used to work with there was stationed in the Army on Guntersville, told me how great it was, how much grass there were, how big the bass were. So I've dreamed about it for a long, long time. I've always wanted to go there, and I think in about 20, I think it was 2005 was the first time I actually got to go. And Dad and I took a little trip and went to Guntersville, and we didn't slay them, but we had a good time. You know, that was the year after one of my favorite episodes of the Bassmasters, where George Cochran caught 100 pounds of bass on a jerkbait. Love that episode. I actually found it on the internet on YouTube not too long ago. That's one of my favorites. But Guntersville, man, it's a famed place. It's just an incredible lake. It's filled with giant bass, and who knows what we can expect as far as the outcome and how much weight. So I think it's going to be exciting. But Birmingham, man, I love the Classic at Birmingham. You know that the town does it up real nice. They celebrate the fact that it's coming there. I mean, this is the South. They understand bass fishing down there, so it's a big deal. But I mean, don't get me wrong, Knoxville did it nice too, but Birmingham really has a good idea. I think now that Knoxville has had a taste of what the Bassmaster Classic can do for their city, we'll be there a few more times, I'm sure, in the next 10 or 15 years. But Birmingham is nice in the fact that, you know, they have the Expo all in one building, and they have the weigh-in just next door. So you can park one time, cover the whole thing. It's really a great deal. And if you haven't been to the Bassmaster Classic, you need to think about going. Granted, it's a little further from, you know, this northern Kentucky area than Knoxville was last year. I think it takes 8 hours to get from northern Kentucky to Birmingham. But Birmingham is a great place to go. Like I said, it's just having it all right there in one location is really sweet. So if you go, you know, you literally can spend 3 days at the Expo. And that's if you're a real tackle junkie. And if you want to go get your pictures taken with pros and whatnot, it's a great place to go. Take your kids, take your wife, let them meet some of these people. Let them know, show them what fishing means to us. My wife, Lori, when we first got together, she had no idea what being a bass fisherman meant. And she used to think it meant, you know, that we were going to go out and drink a lot and run women and everything else. And once she went to the first Bassmaster Classic with me, which was in Orlando in 2005, I think it was. But once she went to that first one with me, she realized what it could be about and how, you know, it's not about going out drinking. It's not about running women. It's about fishing. It's serious business. It can be. So it really opens up the perspective to a lot of people what the sport can be and what it can mean. And it's really a great opportunity for the world to see what bass fishing can mean to us. And like I said, the Expo has all the tackle there that you could ever dream of wanting as far as bass fishing goes. To me, it's better than iCast. You know, I've never cared for iCast. That I don't think it should be a public thing. You know, people shouldn't even know iCast exists, in my opinion. iCast is for manufacturers to introduce products that may or may not ever hit the store shelves. It's just about ideas. Here's my prototype. Do you think this will sell? And if buyers say, yeah, I think it'll sell and I'll buy some, you'll see it on the store shelves. But if buyers aren't interested in it, it'll fade away. you'll never hear from it again. Well, I shouldn't say never, but it'll be a while before you hear from it again. So I think the Bassmaster Classic Expo is the best thing for the tackle industry that's out there. I mean, there's always a lot of sales, everything that you want, new products, you name it. It's all going to be there. You can talk to manufacturer reps. You can talk to pros. I mean, it's just endless, the things that you can do. And you can spend 3 days there. If you do, my advice is this. On the first day that you go and find those hot items that are going to be hard to find because they are bought up quickly. Get those the first day. That's generally Friday. On Sunday is when the deals are, because people bring all this stuff to the Classic. They generally don't want to transport it all home. So they start cutting deals about Sunday at noon, maybe a little later, but normally about Sunday at noon, you'll start seeing some deals. I remember the last time Lori and I were in Birmingham was when Kevin Van Dam won at Lay Lake. And Simmons Sporting Goods, who is down in Alabama, really cool little place. I'd love to go to their store one of these days, but it's just kind of away from everything, in Birmingham that you're dealing with there. But they seem to have a really good store. I bought a lot of different things from them over the years, sometimes at the Classic Expo, other times, over phone calls or internet or whatever else. But I remember that particular Classic, they were selling all-star rods, which used to be big back then. They were selling all-star rods for $100 a piece on Friday and Saturday. On Sunday, all those all-star rods that they had, and they had garbage cans full of them, just piled in garbage cans. They were selling them 3 for $100. So I think I bought like $300 worth of rods. Some of them were for Dad for Father's Day and Christmas, and others, the rest were for me. But I still use a couple of those rods. And to be honest with you, I broke a couple of the cranking rods, and I really miss them. But that was a great deal. Now, granted, yes, it's a lot of expense right then out of pocket, but I saved a lot of money over the years because of those rods. So that's just one example. There's all kinds of things out there. The first Classic I went to in Orlando got me hooked on tungsten because a guy gave me a whole handful of tungsten sinkers. So the expo is really a great thing to go enjoy. Now, that being said, a lot of people also like to go and be on the water and watch their favorite pro or whatever else. And I got to say, I know I'm going to get beat up on this one, but I don't agree with that situation at all. I don't think there should be any boats on that water, because whenever you're on that water, you're inhibiting those anglers. I don't care what it is. Whether it's, just being part of a crowd where somebody has to go through this big crowd to get to where they want to fish. Or, whether you're by yourself watching a guy and you've got your depth finder on and, the fish definitely hear those depth finders. Or whether you're clunking around in your boat and you think you're far enough away, fish hear that stuff. So I think any boat that's on that water is inhibiting these anglers. I really wish people wouldn't feel the need to go be on the water to watch these guys. I mean, we've got the internet now. We've got Bassmaster Live. There's really no reason to go and follow these guys in the boats and get in the way, because that's what you're doing. You're getting in the way. You're inhibiting these guys from catching fish, and you're getting in the way. That's my belief. I know you guys can beat me up, give me all the comments you want down below. I know it's public water. I really wish the Bassmaster Classic was held on private water where we could close the lake. But that's me. One of the other things I'm not fond about, and they did this a couple years ago too, when they had it at Guntersville, but Guntersville to Birmingham is about an hour and a half to 2 hour drive. I don't even know where they're launching from, but it's at least an hour and a half, maybe even 2. So that on the angler, boy, that's a lot. You got to figure as an angler, you're waking up at 4 a.m., maybe 5 if you're lucky, and going and fishing for 8 hours after, getting your boat ready and everything else. So by the time you pull back into the ramp, it's probably 3:30. Now you've got a 2 hour drive to the weigh-in. So now you're looking at 5:30. The weigh-in itself will take 2 hours probably. So now you're looking at 7:30. And then you go over and mingle with some fans or, talk to some industry reps or whatever else, you're talking about 8:30, then you've got to drive another 2 hours if you're staying close to the lake. That way you wake up fresh and you're right there at the lake. You got to drive another 2 hours to get back to where you're staying. So now we're looking at 10:30. That makes for a very short night's sleep. Doesn't give you really any time to mentally unwind, to get your mind focused. It's a grueling, exhausting event for the anglers. So having that extra time to drive back and forth between Guntersville and Birmingham, I think can be very taxing on these guys, in my opinion. Now, granted, I think bass, most of the time they'll have a police escort from the launch site to the weigh-in. And I'd imagine that they probably even provide drivers to drive the truck and boat back to the weigh-in. In which case, maybe the anglers can catch a couple winks then, have a little nap driving back and forth. But most of them are probably so keyed up that they can't. There might be somebody that can turn it off like a light switch and be able to take a nap. And hopefully another thing I always think about, being a fat guy, I got to think about food. Hopefully they find some time to get a little food in them. I'd imagine, hopefully, maybe bass, while they're at the ramp, provides them a little bit of food before they're driving back to the weigh-in. And maybe they can get some food backstage too. Not sure about that. But it can be a very grueling, exhausting process for the anglers. And so when these guys come in at the end of the weigh-in, and maybe they're not quite so happy or whatever else, give them a break with that, because they have just had an exhausting day. I know if you come and talk to me at the end of a fishing tournament, a lot of times I haven't eaten and I haven't drank enough, and sometimes I'm so stupid I can't even remember my name, let alone do I want to talk to people. After I come off the water, I want to be real quiet. I want to just chill. And that's me, and I imagine that's a lot of other people out there too. Regardless of how you decide to enjoy the Classic, whether it's watching Bassmaster live, whether you have the opportunity to go down to Birmingham, and I wish I had the opportunity to go again this year, but we've just got so much going on around here. We're going to be busy getting things tied up. That way I can go fishing when it starts warming up. But I don't think we're going to make Birmingham this year. Not unless something unforeseen happens and we get some things wrapped up. I just don't think we're going to make it to Birmingham, and I really wish we could. But if you get the opportunity to go, by all means, you'll enjoy yourself. It's well worth the time. If you don't like crowds, Friday is going to be your best day to go. But anymore, hardly anybody works Fridays anymore anyway, so it'll be busy Friday too. But it is really a cool thing to do, and go experience it if you've never been before, for sure. Make the opportunity to go. Regardless, we've got the internet, we can watch it. I'll be just glued to it as much as I can. So thanks for tuning in. We will see you the next time on Old School and Bass with Big Tim.